So the next session we have is titled Creating Safe and Thriving Communities, Powerful Content Moderation Strategies in Multiplayer Games. So please welcome to the stage Hege Tokerud from Aiba.ai. Thank you so much. Please, round of applause. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, or good day. Hope you had a great last day, or not the last day, but a fun day yesterday, and that there was a little bit, not too much toxicity on the party. Well, I'm here to talk about how to make great communities. And I want to start with why it's hard and why it's important. How many of you here have your own community? Yeah? Oh, we talked. Okay, that's great. Okay, so why is it hard? Let's see. Well, why fighting toxicity is hard is because in those games, in those communities, there are so much content. And also when it comes to if you have chat, for example, there can be so many languages. And not only talking about German, Norwegian, Finnish, English, Spanish, but also the algo speech. Like the kids are talking in different ways. And when it comes to the context, that's hard. It's really hard to understand if it's not about what it's said, but it's about what it's meant to be. What does it mean? And also, we see that in many games, there are very toxic players, and they keep coming back even if they are banned. So that's why it's hard. But why is it important to manage it, even if it's hard? And that's because we see that this is a questionnaire from this year, and as many as half of the players in a multiplayer game, they expressed doubts about their safety in the game, and that's a lot. We also see that it impacts the mental health in their physical life as well. And we see that it doesn't only say that, of course, it's bad when it happens to you, if people are toxic to you, but also we see that it harms the people that see this is happening. And after playing games, they feel angry, they are upset, they get less social, and also many of them are showing signs to post-traumatic stress syndrome, which is really bad. And after playing in these games, which is supposed to be something they do on their free time to have fun, 1 in 10 say they have suicidal thoughts, which is bad. And also, when it comes to the kids, which is something we don't talk much about, is that 1 in 7 also are contacted by a sexual predator, like playing the games every year, which is a big problem. And that's also the reason why the governments now have talked about we have to do something. And we see that there are so much regulations going on now in the space. There is a new regulation in the EU, like the Digital Services Act. There's a new regulation in the UK, in the US, that states that the communities, you have to do something to protect your players, and especially the kids. So, if we go back to the kids, or to your players in the games, it can be kids, it can be teens, it could be adults. What they say is that over 75% say it's so important to feel safe while playing a game. And it's so important not to being put under toxicity or harassment. That's important for them. And also, 7 out of 10 players say they avoid specific games just because of the reputation of the game that it's toxic. And also 6 out of 10 players, they have quit a game permanently. They never come back because they have put under bad stuff on the platform. So, do they put their money where their mouth is? And yes, they do. What they also said is that they have chosen not to buy a specific game because they heard it's toxic, and also that they have discovered it's been very toxic. And this is a US study, and this is also the reason why it's so important, not only because of the health of your community, but also the health of your company or your game, is that we see a healthy, safe, nice game, it has 75% more revenue than a toxic game. So that's also important for you, I think. So when we're talking about the return on investment, on trust and safety, to have a healthy game, we see that the safe players turns into happy players, and it gives you more revenue into the game. So, how do you do this? How do you make more revenue and make more happy players? Well, you have this community management, which has been going on for years. It's a very busy slide here, but I just wanted to show you this, that this is nothing, it's nothing new. It started out with the internet. When the internet was born, I think the first sentence was hello world, and the other one was something toxic. Sorry. and the way we started out with the community management in the 90s was, it was very reactive. Then we looked into the content that had happened, and then we did something to solve it. Then later on, we started working on the proactive side, trying to not having the players being toxic. So then we started out with community guidelines. And also, what's a big cost in this space is that there has been very resource intensive. Like the people, they have spent so many hours trying to moderate the games. And we see that with so many players, so many games, so many content, so many, it can be text, it can be pictures, it can be everything, but it's so hard to cope up. And that's why we need to use tech to solve this issue. And also what we see now, moving forward, and I will also come back to this, is that, okay, you ban the bad players from your platform, and they keep coming back, but maybe we could also try to give them feedback that they should act different, and maybe they do, and then you can make a great game. Okay, so you start out with your community guidelines, and this sounds very boring, I know, but it's so important, because then you also make the rules on how you want to have your community, how your community should be, and how your people or the players should act to each other in this game. So that's the first thing you should start out with. And then, after doing this, well, then you can start using the tech and the tools out there. And I would recommend that you're not jumping into the tech at once, but thinking about how you want to do with the tech, or how you want to use the tech before you start using it. What's your goal? Because there are so, like when the AI was booming into the market in 21, 22, we saw that everyone, they wanted to use those big language models, which are great, like ChatGPT, but for content moderation, it's not working, and it's very expensive as well. So it's good to look at some solutions that are not the best on the market, but which might be good enough. That's what you're aiming at. And when it comes to the AI-powered moderation, there are so many benefits, of course, but also challenges. And like the benefits is like, you can look at all the content out there, while the challenges are, well, shit in gives shit out, so to say. So it's so important that you also know your community, you know your data, and you feed this data into your models that will be trained by the AI, and it's very important that you have control over what you feed into those models. And it's not enough to train only once. You have to do it like maybe twice a month, especially in the kids' games, because we see the way kids and teens are talking. It's changing very fast. And just wanted to show you this, what we did for a company, which shows that it's not about what's written, but it's about who is writing it, which is the problem. It's never the content, but it's the player that's often the problem. And we saw that by being able to detect the toxic players, like we did here, we saw that less than 0.5% of the players in this game, they were making 75% of all the toxicity in the game. And also, if you see those players here, 8 players out of 30,000 were doing 25% of all the toxicity in this platform. So it's so important to find those people, because it's people, or it could be bots. And if it's bots, you should remove them instantly. But if these are people, you should absolutely do something about this. Okay, so how do you start? Well, it's easy peasy. You start out with defining your community guidelines. That's one. And also, those guidelines should support your vision as well. And what I talked about previously, all those new regulations coming in, you should also try to think a little bit one step ahead. What do you need to report to the governments? And that's also something you should build into your community guidelines as well. And as you see here, it's not about technology, it's about people, and it's about processes, and it's about data. And what's also important is that you have to measure to see, is it working or not? Are your players getting happier? Well, then you should continue. If it's not working, then you should change. And speaking of those toxic players here, the ones that are really, really toxic, maybe they don't know. And also, how do we manage them? Because they keep coming back with another username. Well, they are still here. And what we see is that what happens in the game is also something, it's about what people do in their real life. So, the toxic players, they're also humans, and maybe they don't know that they're actually toxic. The way they do, it's toxic. Maybe they don't know. So what we see is that you should be inclusive, transparent, and try to coach them into being nice players. Because if they start being nice, then your 25% of the toxicity on your platform, or 75% of it, it will drop down to 0, and the health of your community will be so much better. And we see that the people, they will load the game even more. So, what's the key takeaway? Well, you should have a strategy on how to detect the bad behavior, because that's what you want to take away. And also use the technology to support your moderators, your people, not the opposite. Then it can be really failing. And also this coaching approach. Try to coach your bad players into nice players, because if you turn them into nice players, they will also bring their friends into the game, and then you will have a really powerful community. Well, that's everything I had, so thank you. And if you have any questions, I will be here, happy to answer. And if you have any questions now, perhaps?
Yeah, thank you very much. If anyone now has a question, it's time to ask. We have a question over here.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. I wanted to ask, how much do you think game design itself plays a part of this equation?
Yeah.
So if there's like a really, you don't really know if there's like a mechanic or some like strategy that people really hate, how much that affects toxicity, and do you think the best way is to sort of take a like introspective approach on that and sort of think why people hate this mechanic or this strategy or something like that, instead of like going straight to like banning or like punishing that?
Yeah. Thank you for your great question. I wish I had a 100% answer on this. But I think this is also about what type of game you want to build. Do you want to build a toxic game, or do you want to build a cozy game? But also, it's not about what you say or what you write. It's about the intention, about what you're saying, what you're writing. So I think, well, yeah, it depends. But it's so important to see the context of the conversation, of the community, not the specific words itself. But very good question. I will think about it a little bit more. Happy to discuss afterwards, because this is important.
Thank you. Any other questions? Not a single one? Well, other than that one. Cool. So in that case, I'm sure you'll be available if anyone has any questions just after. And please give a huge round of applause. That was fantastic. Thank you so much.